Good day, everyone. Welcome to our teaching music in the elementary grades. So we are now in teaching methodologies for music education. Let me borrow a quote from the famous Johann Sebastian Bach. The aim and final end of all music should be none other than the glory of God and the refreshment of the soul. Our intended learning outcomes. It is to design, to develop, and apply learning in music education through teaching demonstration. So we have the topic 1, teaching strategies. Learning is a process of inquiry and discovery. Learning is effective when a child is ready to learn. Schools are concerned with the teaching learning approaches in music education, which will help children to develop musical concepts and grow in musical understandings, skills, and appreciation like value judgment. While the teacher understands the nature of the children or the child and the nature of music, he is also expected to understand the various ways by which the child grows as individual personalities and the quality of his responsive to music. So as we see, learning is a process of inquiry and discovery. It is learning through experience or learning by doing by John Dewey. And it is also effective when when the child is ready to learn. Natay experience nga once masud ta sa classroom, ma-feel na to ang atmosphere nga dili pa sila ready mo learn. So we need to put more motivation in order for them to be ready for learning. So we have here the conceptual approach. So the conceptual approach is to learn may fit the different ways students can function in various settings. So this includes the approaches like learning through experience. So same sa akong gistorya ganina. It is true. When we experience, we are learning. And also learning through abstract conceptual by developing strategies and theories. Learning through active experimentation. Learning through reflective observation. So we have experience. We also have strategies and theories, experimentation, and observation. So natay hands-on. So napud tayo knowledge about it or background. Then we also have experiment kung unsaon jud, and observation tan-awon kung unsay proper nga pagbuhat ana niya. Like music, unsaon ang proper nga pagtukar, paggamit og instrumento, di ba? Then we also have these approaches and can be synthesized into 4 types of learning. First, we have the convergers. So convergers, natay notes dire. Convergers are those you look towards to turn theories and ideas into reality. So dili lang siya knowledge or background ra, but also natay experience. It is to rely on deduction to solve problems. So dili lang theories about how to solve problems, but it is to solve your own problems. So people with this learning style have dominant abilities dominant abilities in the areas of abstract conceptualization and active experimentation. Okay, hands-on man sila. Now we have the divergers. The divergers learning, they use to a creative problem solving and view a problem from many perspectives before acting. Una sila ilang gipang huna-huna kung unsaon ug dapat buhaton, saktong buhaton about that. So people with a diverging learning style have a broad cultural interest and like to gather information. They are interested in people and tend to be imaginative and emotional and tend to be strong in the arts. The assimilators learning. Third is the assimilator learning. So, asa na to siya? So, they employ an inductive approach with schemes and to organize problem solvings. They organize. Lastly is hands-on. They want to obtain experience as a way of learning. Take note, they obtain to experience as a way of learning. Approaches to work. We have here the surface disorganized. So students feel overwhelmed by work. They are unsure what is needed to complete a task. They find it difficult to organize their time effectively bisan kita. Mas makraming paganita igabot sa deadline because they have difficulty to organize our time effectively. So their study methods such as reading do not yield real understanding. Next is surface rationale. Students have preference for order, detail, and routine. Students want to know precisely what is expected. They can considerable effort into memorizing important facts when learning something new. Ma-excite po ta kung naay mga bago. Deep approach, rather. So students employ an integrative approach that leads to personal understanding. Students try to relate new ideas to actual situation where they might apply. So dili lang sila about sa ilang pagsabot ra kutob, they also want to apply it. Discovery approach. Discovery approach is an inquiry-based or constructivist learning theory that takes place in problem-solving situations where the learner draws on his or her own past experience and existing knowledge to discover facts and relationship and new truths to be learned. Students interact with the world by exploring and manipulating objects, wrestling with questions and controversies, or performing experiments. As a result, students may be more likely to remember concepts and knowledge discovered on their own. In contrast to the missionist models. So models that are based upon discovering learner. Learning model includes the guided discovery, the problem-based learning, simulation-based learning, and case-based learning, incidental learning, and many more. Proponent of this theory believes that discovery learning has many advantages. So this includes the following. Encourages active engagement. Okay, may excitement sila. Promotes motivation because they want to learn something new. Promotes autonomy, responsibility, and independence. The development of creativity and problem-solving skills. And lastly, a tailored learning experience. So we also have the critics have sometimes cite disadvantages, including creation of cognitive overload, potential misconceptions. Okay, wala kayo nasabtan. Teachers may fail to detect problems and misconceptions. Learning through. First, we have the lecture method or the deductive. May common na ito nga, ginabuhat kaning lecture. So the teacher gives a generalization of an idea of the principle. We give, as teacher, an example through pictures and describes what the entity is about. The learner grasps this generalization as part of the basic knowledge that it is to be learned, which becomes fixed and embedded in his head. So through questioning, the teacher is able to present the idea to be true and for the students to accept this idea as the fact. The effectiveness of the lecture on the assumption that the learner can internalize what he has learned from the teacher's lecture is on fact, which are now a part of the reality he possesses. So kung mag-lecture ka, ato na siyang ma-measure ang ilahang pagsabot sa atong pag-lecture is true reality. Ato yun ang apply through daily experiences. Next, we have the SOCRATIC or inductive. So the lecture method is from the known to the unknown. And the SOCRATIC is opposite. From the unknown to known. So the teacher, through the series of logical questioning, so magsitag pangutana, mood na ato ang strategies, is to move the students to arrive at something from the shredded parts he has in his mind. Ito nang anaman o hagpat kung sa'yong na silang hunang-huna. So questioning method affords greater student involvement. The teacher bombards the students with the questions in logical sequence until the correct answer is formulated. The lesson becomes lively because there is greater competitive students' participation. Mo ginay best the student participation, which involves the personal reaction from imaginations or on the generalizations to be made. So the social studies approach. Social studies approach is one of the oldest approach in education. This approach is intended to reinforce from learning process as to make them relevant to the needs of the modern times. Specifically applied to music. The social studies approach gives emphasis to both the intrinsic and extrinsic values of music. They said that intrinsic values refers to the learning, inherent in the music itself, while intrinsic values refers to the social, educational, cultural, and recreational values in music. With the latter consideration in mind, the social studies approach becomes an interdisciplinary approach to the music learning. We have the mastery learning. So mastery learning approaches is to have all students learn instructional materials as roughly equivalent high levels. So we have instructors who use mastery learning, break down from course material into manageable units, and create formative tests for students to take on each of the units. So, natay nga teacher nga ikaw man sa unit, mag-unit test dayon, di ba? So, in the review of mastery learning, like Kulik and et al. Cite Bloom's formulation at the classic approach. Like in Bloom's model, students receive individualized instruction as necessary so that they all master course material. So the basic approach reduces variation in final student performance through the instruction suited to all students' needs. So they also describe a second influential mastery model, like Keller's. He personalized system of instruction or PSI, and it has 4 distinguished characteristics. So first, written materials. So kung mag-lecture ganita namtay mga written materials to constitute the major teaching activity. Instead of presenting information to the objective and study students orally, instructions select or create appropriate reading materials and mga handouts to create behavioral objective of the study and questions, and prepare multiple forms of tests that measures the students' progress and provide feedback. And we also have to finish the assignments at their own pace. These principles stems from the recognition that students have many other obligations and learn at different rates. Third, we have the students must demonstrate mastery on tests or correct deficiencies before they move on their work. And finally, instructional staff resources are devoted to helping students deal with their deficiencies. So formative evaluation. Formative evaluation is to frequent ongoing evaluation to provide information about how learning is taking place in the learner. It seeks to identify from learning weakness prior to the completion instruction or on unit or on a lesson. Natay format. Formative evaluation. Like for example, we have here formative evaluation may utilize the following techniques like observation, pencil and paper test naman ang most common, then other informal measures like oral exam. We also have the summative evaluation. This is to process the obtaining information about how the learner has changed at the end of the teaching-learning process. This is the end of the lesson or test or unit test, meaning summative test. This provides a basic grading of the students. So we have the evaluation in mastery learning. Learning is assured if, first, the terminal behavior is clearly defined. Second, a learning unit broken up upon the competent task. Third, the competent tasks are arranged in their achievable sequences that will ensure the learning of a higher levels when previous one has been mastered. Tests are administered before starting other unit to determine how the student has achieved the terminal objectives. So, depende na ay buak-buak ang mga components like ang subtitles. We also have i-check kung na mastered ba jud ang previous nga topic. And also, before mag-exam, before sa topic, napod tayo exam nga about ana. And lastly, the evaluation at the end of the unit determines what corrective measures to apply. So the school is not only the place where learning to take place, dili lang dira sa eskwelahan. Several experiments were undertaken to find out how learning can be delivered to the child in most effective manner. So we have the SLK or Self-Learning Kit. According to the director Luciria B. Soriano, the Bureau of Public Schools, the SLK or the Self-Learning Kit consists the systematically sequenced material for learning skills and information. So the information or the following aspects are included in the preparation of the self-learning kit. So we have the topic or the title. Muni kasagaran na sa atong lesson plan. So the topic or the title tells us what the self-learning kit is about. It should be related to the child's interest, the needs, the experiences, and capabilities. One topic or title is one self-learning kit. Next, we have the target learners. The target learners are two groups, in school and off school. So there are the names and schedules of block and should be properly recorded. So muna usahay natin i-highlight nga students na dili paspas mo catch up o napoy kayong medyo lang, diba? Next, we have the third one, the overview. So the overview gives a brief background information on the abstract of the following. So first, what the topic or the title is about, what the teacher intends to do about it, what the teacher expects the students to learn from the self-learning kit, and lastly, how the teacher's expectation may be realized. Fourth is the objective or the learning task. The objective states what the teacher aims to accomplish. The objective should be behavioral and value-oriented statement. So the prerequisite is number 5. Prerequisites include what the learner should know about or before starting the day's lesson. He should be appraised of the definite task. Learner. Each prerequisite or entry behavior should be related to the objective and terminal behavior. So di ta pwede maghimo og kanang mga objectives nga dili siya in line sa tanan natong gipambuhat, lalo na sa atong lesson plan. So learners' activities, it is very important to have this. The learners' activities are the sum total of learning experiences. It consists of the following, like warm-up exercise. So di lang sa physical education ay warm-up exercise, but all the subject matter. The lesson proper, the generalization, the practice exercises like oral or written exams, the formative test, and the differentiated assignment. Sa atong lesson plan, yun na to siya mahilimtan ha. Kaning related resources. Related resources may be human, pwede materials, and institutional. Pwede sa human resources include the parents, the older students, the youth leaders, the professionals, and the friends. And most importantly, dapat natay material resources includes the books, the magazines, the newspapers, the reading centers, cultural centers, museums, parks, playgrounds, and other buildings. So moni ang material resources. Dili lang data dapat mo stop dira sa books. We have magazine, newspapers, and all other material resources. So study questions. Study questions based on the lesson proper, the practice exercise, the formative, and the summative test should be brief and easy to understand, stimulating and challenging. They should reveal what the student learned in the various activity. Dapat makitaan yun na to. Sabay nakatunan ang nila dari napita. Ug naa ba yun nakatunan? Feedback. So feedback tells whether the questions are correctly answered or not. If the student fails to get the correct response, he cannot proceed to the next lesson. Mo nang kung gagmay gani silang scores, dapat di dahil mo proceed sa next topic. Dapat ato pa yun ang balikon. Instead, he is given similar exercises of various activities. The criterion post-test. So the student is expected to get an 80 performance rating. So kung muubos pa gani anak, balik. Lastly is the evaluation. Evaluation determines how much the students learn from the skill learning kit. The summative tests are administered to find out what the activities should be expanded, repeated, stopped, or extended so as to prepare for the next skill learning kit. Because kung naiusa ka skill self-learning kit, na ay usa ka topic. So kung makita na to, may summative test na to, gagmay og score, kinahanglan dira na to i-focus na tong attention kung asa ta mo expand, asa na to balikon og lecture, asa na to i-stop, asa na to extend, kay aron masabtan gid sa tong estudyante. So that's all. That is our last topic for teaching music in the elementary grades. Thank you.